Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the What If. Chapter 3. A Cold Flame. In a perpetually stormy and constantly shifting nebula-like dimensional plane outside of reality, there stood two beings sternly glaring at each other, perusing the slightest weakness of one another to gain the upper hand in what seemed to be a philosophical debate. One of which was Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the sage of six paths, and the other was a rather strange and eldritch being. He looked like a solid black silhouette of a youth riddled with iridescent starry-like spots akin to that of a cloudless night sky, and was engulfed in a fiery aura of white energy. The entity then spoke in an eerie, echoing and cold voice. The deviations engendered by your intrusion had thrown the natural order into imbalance that has taken thousands of years of subtle manipulation to rectify. He said in reference to chakra. The core teachings of Ninshu were meant to connect the spiritual energies of every living being, uniting nations into a single people that is able to understand each other without communication and thereby giving them better understanding of themselves, as well as of others. The sage replied in a calm voice, in defense of his philosophy. Is it really? Indeed. I think not. Old man, the entity said. Hagoromo could have sworn that he saw an ephemeral demonic grin on the former's shadowy and featureless face. I can see that your senility is only superseded by your arrogance. Old man, to my understanding you're far more ancient than I am, the sage riposted with a vague smile before his face turned austere again. Why do you despise humans so much? He then inquired in a serious tone. On the contrary, I find humans quite interesting, even though they are a worthless greedy lot. The entity replied. Is that why you destroyed the elemental nations? I have my reasons. How your mind works baffles me. What kind of reason there is to kill millions of innocent people? Do you see yourself and your kind too mighty and superior to indifferently ignore the lives of those lower than you and step on them and crush them like insects on the heels of your feet? Do you not have a conscience nor a concept of what's right or wrong? The sage firmly retorted in a serious tone, gripping his staff rather tightly. I am beyond duality. I can do no wrong, for I don't know what it is. The entity tranquilly spoke once again in the same eerie and echoing voice, shocking the sage from the revelation of the dark god. What fascinations there are in this planet. Strange mortals with curious customs. But alas, their lives are fragile and fleeting like falling autumn leaves. And in their paltry, unfortunate existence they desired things, concepts and powers that are not theirs nor could they hope to comprehend. Day and night they endlessly supplicated the heavens for equality. To be as wealthy as their neighbor, as powerful as the Lord they serve, to have the means to avenge their ill fates. So you decided silence them forever. Hagoromo said in a contemptuous hollow voice. I granted their egalitarian wish and longing, noble and common, rich and poor, young and old, all are equal in death, the deity said indifferently as he slowly faded and vanished into nothingness. He has strange notions of kindness. But he was made so and does not know any better. His ways are indeed peculiar from a mortal's point of view. Hagoromo pondered mirthlessly from the yet again disturbing revelation. Naruto, I leave everything to you now, my son, the sage said with a tiny spark of hope in his heart as he was left alone in that otherworldly dimensional prison. Port Angeles. A ramen bar recently opened in Port Angeles and Naruto was ecstatic for it's the only one in town. He quickly made a shadow clone to be his replacement in school and hurried himself to Washington Street, where it was located. His face lit up with joy as he ingressed and beheld the glorious magnificence of the establishment. One miso ramen with extra katsudon please. Naruto enthusiastically ordered. The chef gladly complied and assembled the ramen, judiciously preparing the noodles and flawlessly merging it with the hearty miso broth like he was uniting yin and yang with immaculate artistry. He then added the toppings with a gentle and artful precision, scallions, nori, menma, halved onsen tamago, and the crowning piece, a perfectly golden sliced katsudon which made Naruto drool, and the shinobi drooled some more when the masterfully completed dish was served in front of him. It's so beautiful, Naruto tearfully said as he inhaled deeply, savoring its aroma, which was heavenly. His senses run amok with the first slurp. His neurons fired wildly from the delectable euphoria that his taste buds were basking on. Oh ramen, where have you been all my life? Naruto thought in blissful exaltation as he continued to slurp and gulp. It didn't take long for him to finish the fairly large bowl and ordered for seconds. "You sure love ramen," a gentle voice said that he thought was familiar. The image of Hinata Hyuga flashed on his mind. He knew that Hinata was long gone, but for some peculiar reason he felt her presence as if she's just next to him. Naruto turned his gaze to the voice's origin and saw a young woman giving him a half-smile. She has perfect copper skin and attractive long eyelashes that perfectly complemented her exotic beauty. "You come here often, miss," he said, leaving the sentence unfinished as if silently asking for the young woman's name. But before she could formally introduce herself, a guy with long black hair and a serious face that Naruto easily identified as a member of the Quileute tribe suddenly grabbed her arms. "Leah, let's go," the man said as he glared darkly at the shinobi before the two stormed out. "Sam, what's wrong with you?" she inquired, quite irate, confounded by his behavior. "Don't you know who that guy is?" Sam Yuli said in a grim and harsh tone. "No, you pulled me away before he could introduce himself. Which, by the way, you have nothing to be jealous about," Leah said sarcastically, trying to diffuse what she thought to be Sam's unfounded jealousy. "He's with the Cullens," Sam said in a whisper-like but stern voice as his eyes narrowed. "A cold one. But that's impossible, I actually saw him eat food," Leah stutteringly said in bewilderment. "He's the most dangerous of them. Look, just promise me you won't have anything to do with that, whatever he is," Sam chided, harsher and more serious than before, with blazing eyes that compelled her to comply. Unknown to them, a cloaked shadow clone surreptitiously eavesdropped on their conversation. It then dispelled and relayed the information it learned to Naruto. He conjured the clone just before the two left the premises to ensure that Leah would be fine. He was both captivated and perplexed by the nostalgic and strangely difficult to comprehend sentiment that she has evoked in him. Biology class. Bella entered the classroom accompanied by Angela. Next to the center aisle, she recognized Edward by his unusual hair. As she walked to the teacher, Mr. Molina, to introduce herself and have her slip signed, the fan blew behind her. For some reason Edward went rigid on his seat. He looked appalled and clutched his hand firmly on his nose like he just caught a lungful of the most putrid and reviling stench the collective cesspools of the planet was able to brew. And as if things couldn't go any worse, Mr. Molina assigned Bella to sit right next to the grimmest young man. She was bewildered and perplexed by the antagonistic glare that he was giving her. Edward didn't look up as Bella set her things on the table and took her seat, though the latter saw his posture change from the corner of her eye. He was leaning away from her, sitting on the extreme edge of his chair as if the offensive reek that assaulted him earlier just got more overpowering. Inconspicuously, Bella sniffed her hair. It smelled like strawberries, the smell of her favorite shampoo. Bella let her hair fall on her shoulder, making a dark curtain between them. She tried to pay more attention to the teacher. Unfortunately, the lecture was about cellular anatomy, something she already tackled in her old high school, back in Arizona. Nonetheless, she took notes diligently, always looking down. Oddly, she couldn't help but peek occasionally at the strange boy next to her. During the entirety of the class he seemed to be in pain and never relaxed his stiff position on the edge of his chair, sitting as far as possible. Both of them felt that the particular class appeared to drag longer than the others, and the discomfort it elicited seemed like sighting on hot cinders. Bella peeked one more time at Edward and regretted it. His charcoal black eyes were glaring at her, full of revulsion. If looks could kill, Bella thought, uncomfortably. As the bell ranged, Edward rose fluidly and was out the door before anyone else was out of their seat. Bella sat frozen, staring blankly after him. She was puzzled and felt ire. She then slowly gathered her things, blocking the anger that filled her, fearing that her eyes would tear up. For some reason her temper was hardwired to her tear ducts, and she usually cries when she's angry, with humiliating and less than pleasant tendency. Later that day, as Bella walked into the office to hand over the signed slips back to Miss Cope, she saw someone that almost made her turn around and walk back out. It was Edward Cullen. He stood at the desk and apparently didn't notice her come in. He was arguing with the receptionist to trade his biology for another class of any other time. There must be something else. Physics, biochem. Edward said in a low, attractive voice. "I'm sorry, but every class is full," Ms. Cope explained to Edward. "Just a minute, dear," she then said as she saw Bella enter the office. Turning her attention back to Edward, she continued, I'm afraid you have to stay in biology. All right, I just have to endure it, Edward sighed, then hastily walked out the door without looking at Bella. Bella meekly approached the receptionist's desk and handed her the signed slips. How did your first day go, dear? Ms. Cope asked maternally. Fine, Bella replied in a timid voice. It was a lie, and it's either she not a very good liar or Miss Cope is just sharply perceptive, for the latter didn't look too convinced. Carver Cafe. Whenever Bella isn't cooking, Charlie and she goes to the particular diner for their meal. I can't believe how much you've grown. And so gorgeous, said Cora, while she's serving Bella a plate of fries and garden burger. She's Charlie's friend and works there as a waitress. Suddenly, a tall, middle-aged and balding man walked over. Hey Bella. You remember me, he said keenly. Bella peered at the man with a bemused face and cordially beamed at him a vague smile. He looked familiar, but she can't particularly recognize him. I played Santa 1 year, the man said with much enthusiasm. Yeah, Waylon. She did not have a Christmas here since she was 4, Charlie reminded the man. I bet I made an impression of it, didn't I? Waylon said, hopeful that he indeed made an impression. You always do, Charlie wittily replied. But crack Santa, Cora remarked, that made them all smirk. Hey, kids loved those little bottles though, Waylon said, referring to the tiny bottles he handed as Christmas gifts to children whenever he plays Santa Claus every year. All right, let the girl eat her garden burger, Waylon, Cora said as he genially dismissed him. As soon as you're done I will bring you your favorite berry cobbler. Remember, your dad still has it, every Thursday. Thank you. It would be great, Bella said, extending her appreciation to the nice lady. It wasn't raining the next day, but the clouds were thick and opaque. Bella stood at the school's parking lot, waiting for Edward. She decided to confront him and demand to know what his problem was. But he never showed. The day after that, another no-show. More days passed and Bella can't help but feel a nagging suspicion that he wasn't there because of her. It's ridiculous and egotistical to think that I can affect someone that strongly. It's impossible, Bella thought, trying to convince herself repeatedly, but at the back of her head she couldn't stop worrying that it is true. The week passed uneventful and Bella's first weekend at Forks went without incident. Then comes Monday. As Bella was walking down the driveway of their house towards her truck, she accidentally slipped from the slippery frozen concrete and landed on her bottom, prompting Charlie to rush over and help her stand. You all right? Charlie inquired as he helped her daughter stand. Yeah, I'm good. Ice doesn't really help being coordinated, Bella replied. Yeah, that's why I had new tires put on the truck. Old ones are getting pretty bald, he said, inspecting the new tires, slightly kicking one just to make sure. Well, I would probably be late for dinner. I gotta head down to Mason County. Security guard at the Grisham Mill got killed by some kind of animal. An animal? Bella inquired, slightly bemused. You're not in Phoenix anymore, Bells. Anyway, I figured I'd lend a hand. Be careful, always am. And thanks for the tires, Bella said, smiling. Yeah, Charlie responded before he got on his cruiser. Prom committee is a chick thing, but I gotta cover it for the paper anyway, and they need a guy to help choose the music, so I need your playlist. Hey, listen, I was wondering, did you have a date too? Eric chatted, accompanying Bella to biology class, and was about to ask her to the prom when they were suddenly interrupted by Mike. What's up, Arizona? Huh, how you liking the rain, girl? Better get used to it, girl, Mike genially said, playfully flapping his rain-drenched hat atop of Bella in jest. Yeah, Mike, hey, you're real cute, man, Eric sarcastically said in frustration. Oh, I know, that was really awesome, Mike said in an innocent tone, pretending that he didn't purposely interrupted their conversation at the point where Eric was about to ask Bella to prom. Why you shooting down my game? Let a play, Eric continued, seeing past through Mike's stratagem. Yeah, okay, what you playing at, T-ball? Mike retorted, amused. As the two continued to bicker, Bella walked to her seat and saw Edward, who has decided to finally end his self-imposed exile and come back to school. His skin was less pale, The circles under his eyes are much less noticeable, and there was something more, Bella pondered, staring, trying to isolate the change. But she did so as cautiously as possible, out of fear of receiving one of his antagonistic glares yet again. There goes my good day, Bella thought as she sat next to him. She was flummoxed, however, when Edward spoke to her in a gentle voice. Hello, I'm sorry I hadn't had the chance to introduce myself last week. I'm Edward Cullen, you're Bella, he said in a serene and almost musical voice. Why, yes, Bella replied, still astonished from the unexpected surprise. She then heard Mr. Molina saying something and focused her attention to the teacher. Onion root tip cells, that's what's on your slides right now. Okay, so, separate and label them into the phases of mitosis, and the first partners that get it right are gonna win the golden onion. The teacher said, holding the prize that made the entire room rustle from the students' chattering and harmless catcalling. Ladies first, Edward slid the microscope to Bella. You were gone. Bella seized the perfect time for an inquiry. Yeah, I was out of town for a couple of days. Personal reasons, Edward awkwardly replied as Bella was peering on the microscope. He then finished his sentence with a rather nervous smirk. Prophase, Bella said with regards to the specimen she just viewed under the microscope. Do you mind if I look? Edward inquired in a gentle voice. It's prophase, he then said, concurring with Bella's earlier assessment. Like I said, so are you enjoying the rain? Edward saw Ed beaming, deviating the topic of conversation. Bella anxiously smirked. What? You're asking me about the weather? She said in response to the Victorian question. Yeah, I guess I am. Edward saw Ed with a confused expression on his face. Well, I don't really like the rain. Any cold, wet thing, I don't really. What? Bella said that made Edward smirk as if he found something amusing. What? Bella inquired, curious of his strange reaction. Nothing. Edward saw Ed with still traces of amusement in his voice. He then peered into the microscope. It's anaphase. You mind if I check? Sure. Anaphase, Bella echoed in agreement to Edward. Like I said, Edward implied with a smile that made Bella gently bit her lip. If you hate the cold and the rain so much, why'd you move to the wettest place in the continental US? He then asked the question out of curiosity. It's complicated, Bella replied. I'm sure I can keep up. My mom remarried, and Bella began in sad voice. She found it peculiarly difficult to word the thoughts she wanted to express. So you don't like the guy, or? Edward saw Ed, more than an assumption than a guess as he attempted to deduce the contents of her words. No, that's not. Phil's really nice, Bella responded. She stared at Edward's eyes to closely scrutinize that they indeed changed color from charcoal black to golden amber. It's metaphase. You want to check it? Edward then said after examining the third slide into the microscope. I believe you, Bella replied, mesmerized. Since they're the first pair to complete the task, Mr. Molina awarded them the golden onion. Even as the class ended, they found themselves still speaking to each other in the hallway. Edward was strangely chatty that day. He was genuinely curious about Bella. Usually, the vampire just telepathically read the information he wanted from anyone to obtain it. There are only two persons who are an exception. First was Naruto, who can shield his mind from him, and the second is Bella, who doesn't register any thought. Hey, did you get contacts? Bella finally inquired in curiosity with regards to the peculiar change of Edward's eye color. No, your eyes were black the last time I saw you, and now they're, like, golden brown. Yeah, I know, it's the fluorescence. Edward struggled to fabricate a pretense as he was caught off guard by the question. He then decided to storm out, leaving Bella mystified. As Bella headed to his truck in the school's parking lot, she saw Edward standing near his shiny silver Volvo. He was talking to Naruto, or rather, the latter was telling him something interesting, but his attention was focused on her. Naruto seemed to notice Edward's distraction and gazed upon Bella's direction. To her surprise, the shinobi flashed a dazzling white friendly smile and waved at her. He's no less gorgeous than his sibling, she thought. She then saw Naruto said something to Edward that made the latter anxious. Bella didn't particularly caught what he said, but it would seem that the golden-haired boy is teasing his bronze-haired sibling. Quote, You do realize that I couldn't really relate with that kind of topic, right? Edward said with a deadpan expression on his face. I know you have your special diet and all, but at least let me tell you the artistic principles of ramen. The shinobi said with fiery fervor, but noticed that Edward isn't really listening and was rather distracted, staring at someone. He instantly traced his line of sight and saw Bella. She's kinda cute. You have good taste in women, he said to him. I don't know what you're talking about, Edward said anxiously. Naruto then cheekily grinned. His face looked like that of a sly fox. So that's where you've been up to every time you leave the house this past few nights. You sneak into her room, didn't you? It's a little bit creepy if you ask me, but in this day and age, no. Shut up, Edward said under his breath. If it isn't for the fact that he's a vampire, he would have blushed red like a tomato from the embarrassment. Oh, don't be too modest, Edward. I can't quite believe it. Our little Eddie boy is now all grown up. I'm so proud, Naruto said in a fashion similar to how Esme speak. Alice giggled with amusement, and even the usually stoic and composed Jasper cannot help himself but laugh. And if the rest of the Cullens were only there, they would have a good chuckle from it too, save for Edward, of course, who at the moment looks kind of irritated. Stop talking, please. Thank you, Edward said, finally able to compose himself after being bombarded with embarrassing quips by his golden-haired foster brother. Okay, I'm sorry. I behaved immaturely and I apologize, Naruto said as he wiped the wisecracking tears of joy from his eye. Though, if you'll indulge me, I wanted to ask you a favor. He then said in a deathly serious tone, his face turned from jolly to grim. What? Edward inquired. His voice was partially quivering from uneasiness. The last time he saw Naruto that serious was back when he dispatched 4 Volturi guards so brutally that it made Ero and Keys look away, trembling in fear. Give me 5, little pimp, Naruto cheekily said in a rather high-pitched voice, raising his right hand for a high five while laughing like an insane person that deeply annoyed Edward and left the vampire fuming in exasperation. Edward was about to walk out from the wisecracking blonde when he saw an out-of-control van about to crush Bella. There was no time to think about consequences, his instincts outpaced his ratiocinative faculties. Bella was startled when suddenly she heard a loud horn and saw a speeding dark blue van with Tyler in it. He tried to avoid a reversing car, but his van went out of control and was sent screeching on a collision course with its side hitting Bella's truck, and she was standing amidst the 2 steel machines that was inexorably about to collide with one another. Bella's entire life flashed before her eyes, but before she could close them out of fear, she felt that someone pushed her out of the way. She then heard the shattering crunch of the van folding around the truck bed and felt an overwhelming fear. Darkness overtook her. She seemed to pass out for a second from what she thought to be her demise. Curiously, as she slowly returned to her senses, she realized that Edward's left arm was around her waist and his right arm held out to stop the van, crushing its side. His hand left a noticeable dent on the van's door as the vehicle impacted it. Bella gazed at his rescuer and he looked back. Their eyes locked for a moment, but he quickly severed it and left casually like nothing happened. It was absolutely silent for one long second before the screaming began. In an abrupt bedlam, Bella could hear more than one person shouting her name as other students rushed to her aid. Dial 911, a girl frantically cried out. I already called. They're gonna send somebody over soon. A boy holding his phone exclaimed. Bella, I'm sorry. I panicked. Tyler apologized in earnest with a weak voice and seemingly about to pass out as he apparently received more injuries than her, with blood gushing from his forehead. Meanwhile, on the other side of the parking lot, Alice and Jasper watched with a hard expression on their faces from the stunt Edward just pulled. Rosalie is going to kill him, Alice mumbled. She could already see Rosalie's outraged reaction, coupled with some harsh scolding for what he did, could elicit the wrath of the Volturi. Naruto, however, remained staid and calm. He then formed a seal of confrontation with his right hand and cast a wide area effect genjutsu that altered the perceptions of those who witnessed the accident. You did the right thing, he then said to Edward as he approached them back. Chapter 4. The Morning Star. As soon as Charlie was informed about the accident, he immediately hopped to his cruiser and drove faster than he ever did in lifetime, breaking dozens of traffic rules in frantic. As he arrived at the hospital and at the emergency room, he saw Tyler, whose head was wrapped in blood-stained bandages. His heart almost stopped, as he could only surmise the terrible injuries his daughter might have suffered. To his relief, Bella seemed to be fine and was apparently unharmed. "Bella, you okay?" Charlie said, deeply concerned. He then turned to Tyler with a straight face. "You and I are gonna talk." "I'm fine, Dad, calm down," Bella responded, trying to defuse the situation. "I'm sorry, Bella, I tried to stop," Tyler said, anxiously. "I know, it's okay," Bella reassured him, but the guilt in his face wasn't fully assuaged. "No, it sure as hell is not okay," Charlie reprimanded in a stern tone that made Tyler look down and remorsefully contemplate his mistake. "Dad, it wasn't his fault. You could have been killed. You understand that?" "Yes, but I wasn't, so." Charlie once again glared at Tyler. "You can kiss your license goodbye." "I heard the chief's daughter was here." Suddenly a doctor walked around the corner and Bella's mouth fell open. He was young, blonde and more handsome than any movie star she had ever seen. From Charlie's description, this has to be Edward's father. "Dr. Cullen," Charlie greeted, confirming Bella's speculation. "Charlie," Carlisle greeted back, giving Charlie a friendly tap in the back. "I've got this one, Jackie, Isabella," Carlisle said in a gentle voice as he took Bella's chart from the nurse. "Bella," she corrected him. "Well, Bella, looks like you took quite a spill. How do you feel?" he then queried. "Good," Bella responded. "Look here," Carlisle said as he flashed a torch on each of Bella's eyes. "You might experience some post-traumatic stress or disorientation, but your vitals look good. No signs of any head trauma. I think you'll be just fine." He then continued that made Charlie sigh in relief from hearing it. "I'm so sorry, Bella. I'm really," Tyler muttered remorsefully but was cut off when Charlie abruptly closed the cubicle curtain between them, out of exasperation. "You know, it would have been a whole lot worse if Edward wasn't there. He knocked me out of the way," Bella said as trickle by trickle her memory of the incident slowly came back. "Edward, your boy?" Charlie inquired, looking at Carlisle. "Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, he got to me so fast. He was nowhere near me." Bella answered his question for him. "Sounds like you were very lucky," Carlisle responded in a rather anxious voice and vague smile. He was bewildered, for Bella remembered what happened quite clearly in spite of Naruto's genjutsu that was designed to erase her recollection of the accident and replace it with a fabricated memory. Quote, "I got to go sign some paperwork." You should probably call your mom," Charlie said in an awkward voice. "Did you tell her?" Bella asked, which Charlie responded with an awkward facial expression, implying that he has no choice but to tell Renee what happened. "She's probably just freaking out," she then muttered. Bella pulled her phone and walked a few steps away from Charlie to make a phone call to her mother, who was probably delirious by now from the unpleasant news, when she saw Carlisle, Edward, Naruto and Rosalie talking to each other in a serious tone and in low and rustling voices. 15 kids that saw what happened," Rosalie said lividly. "What was I supposed to do, then? Let her die," Edward responded in defense of her action. "Don't worry about them. They saw what I wanted them to see. It's Bella I'm stumped about. I used an even stronger jutsu on her just to make sure, but she just shrugged it off in just less than an hour," Naruto said in a ponderous voice. "This isn't just about you. It's about all of us." Rosalie scowled at Edward, ignoring Naruto's statement. "I think we should take this in my office," Carlisle said as they saw Bella standing in a corner, 10 feet away from them. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Bella awkwardly said to Edward. Naruto gave her a vague smile, while Rosalie scowled at her. "Rosalie, Naruto," Carlisle gently said, evoking privacy for Edward and Bella. "What?" Edward asked, sounding annoyed and his jaws clenched. "How did you get over to me so fast?" Bella inquired. His unfriendliness intimidated her, prompting her words to come with less severity than she originally intended to. "I was standing right next to you, Bella." "No, you were next to your car, across the lot." "No, I wasn't," Edward retorted indifferently, followed by a soft laugh that Bella felt like a mockery. "Yes, you were," Bella pushed firmly. "Bella, you hit your head. I think you're confused," Edward said in a cutting tone. "I know what I saw." Bella's temper flared as she was staring defiantly at him. And what exactly was that? Edward snapped. You stopped the van. You pushed it away with your hand. Bella retorted. She realized how crazy it sounds that she couldn't continue. She was so mad that she could feel the tears coming and tried to force them back by grinding her teeth together. Well, nobody's gonna believe you, so, Edward responded. He was staring at her incredulously. His face was serious and defensive. I wasn't gonna tell anybody. I just need to know the truth. Can't you just thank me and get over it? Thank you. You're not gonna let this go, are you? No. Well, then I hope you enjoy disappointment. Edward saw Ed scowling at her and walked out. Quote, biology field trip. I need everyone's permission slip, Mr. Molina said as tasked a student to collect them. Meanwhile, Bella was beside her truck. Her eyes wandered the entire parking lot, deeply contemplating if what she saw that day was indeed true or just a hallucination stimulated by trauma. Her gaze fell to the dent on his truck, then to Edward, who was walking along with Alice and Jasper. Hey, look at you, you're alive. Mike, who suddenly appeared in the background out of nowhere, said in a silly voice, trying to be cute. Yeah, I know, false alarm I guess, Bella said with a vague smile. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, if, you know, it's like a month away, but would you go to the prom with me? Mike said incoherently, with a nervous smile on his face, hoping that Bella would say yes. Bella wasn't really paying attention to him as her concentration was focused on Edward behind him, who for some reason looked amused at something. So what do you think? Mike said. That caught Bella's attention back. About what? Bella asked. You want to go to prom with me? Mike said with awkward intervals in his voice followed by nervous smirks on each lacunae, his pale blue eyes looking at her like a puppy dog. Oh, prom. Dancing, not such a good idea for me. I have something on that weekend anyway. I am going to Jacksonville that weekend, Bella then said in a slow and measured voice, choosing her words carefully as not to offend him. Meanwhile, he caught a gaze on Edward, whose grin on his face just widened as if he heard every last bit of their conversation. You cannot go another weekend? Mike asked. A trace of melancholy was audible in his voice, but still hoping that Bella would be her date. Non-refundable ticket, Bella said. That visibly saddened Mike, but accepted her decision respectfully, nonetheless. She felt sorry for him. You should ask Jessica. I know she wants to go with you, she then said. That made Mike try to smile. Hey guys, we got to go. We got to go. Green is what? Good, let's go, Mr. Molina called them in a cheery and encouraging voice. You're so mean, Naruto said to Edward, whose smile is now bigger than ever. What? It's funny, Edward replied. That made Naruto shook his head. Quote, greenhouse, eggshells, carrot top, compost is cool, Mr. Molina said. Apparently he enjoyed the tour a little bit too much than most of the students. Now, I am gonna make a steaming cup of compost tea, he said ecstatically, but was distraught when he saw Tyler and Mike took turns sipping it. What's in Jacksonville? Edward curiously asked Bella out of the blue. Bella was surprised by the question and a bit irritated at the thought that Edward was eavesdropping during her conversation with Mike. How did you know about that? Bella asked in a tone which sounded more like an implication than an inquiry. You didn't answer my question. Well, you didn't answer any of mine, so you didn't even say hi to me. Hi, Edward cumbersomely said. That made Bella roll her eyes. Are you gonna tell me how you stopped the van? Yeah, I had an adrenaline rush. It's very common. You can Google it. Floridians, that's what in Jacksonville, Bella wittily said. She then nearly tripped but was caught by Edward. Would you at least watch where you walk? Edward saw Ed angrily. That made Bella walk away. Look, I'm sorry if I'm being rude all the time, it's just I think it's the best way, he then said before she could traverse any further distance. Before she could reply, Jessica came and excitedly told the Bella on how Mike asked her to the prom. Edward, on the other hand, walked out swiftly and disappeared into the crowd of students in front of them. Quote, biology class. The next day, Eric walked Bella to biology class as usual, constantly chatting to the latter in a genial manner as they stride, asking how's her day and if she's feeling much better since the accident. He also mentioned to Bella that Mr. Molina was out of town for an urgent business and a substitute teacher will have to fill in for a week. As Bella entered the room, she was surprised and a bit crestfallen when she saw Edward no longer sitting where he previously sat but decided to move a few rows behind. There was no question that he's now deliberately avoiding her. What is his problem? Bella thought. She was more irked than ever. She was puzzled and quite deep in her thoughts as to why Edward is acting in such a galling manner. She barely noticed the substitute teacher come in, nor did she pay particular attention to lecture. Bella finally had enough and decided to confront him once and for all. She turned to Edward with a straight face, ready to demand an explanation. Suddenly all noise died out and time itself seemed to stop as the room was filled with an eerie silence. Bella turned from Edward as curiosity compelled her to peruse the sudden stillness, but her subsequent facial expression melded with the singular reaction of everyone in the room. The menagerie of flabbergasted girls whose jaws were completely agape, and even the teacher was blushing red as they saw an extremely handsome young man standing at the threshold of the classroom door. A single glance and he could well be mistaken for an A-lister male model. Wearing a simple but fashionable gray Challenger Henley, faded designer jeans and just slightly blue suede shoes. He is quite tall, standing at about 6 feet 2, apparently has a lean but well-built body. Has a medium length, glossy and slightly wavy golden brown hair that gives him a casual and groomed but undone look. He also sports a silky, flawless fair skin complexion and celestial facial aesthetics that could challenge and effortlessly subdue the definition of perfection. But his most distinguishing feature are those strikingly beautiful and mesmerizing iridescent electric blue eyes that somewhat look purple when viewed in the right light. Those pair of hypnotic orbs are so enthralling that gazing upon them feels like being removed from the mundane existence and be set adrift into a sea of astral splendor and soul-pacifying tranquility. "Can I help you?" The substitute teacher, a petite Latina-looking lady, broke the silence. "I apologize for the intrusion, miss. I'm a new student. The nice lady from the office said I should give this to you and have it signed," the young man said politely with a pleasant voice and in a cultured accent while handing the slip to the teacher. "Okay, Mr. Alexander Storm, I'm Ms. Rodriguez, your substitute biology teacher. By the way, can we just call you Alex? Alexander seems so archaic," the teacher said with a subtle hint of jest after reading the slip. "Sure thing," the young man cheerfully replied. "Okay then, Alex. Please help yourself to a vacant seat." Alex nodded before he sat down on an available seat that happens to be adjacent to Bella. The young man smiled in greeting to his flushed seatmate, which was reciprocated with a nod and vague smile before she awkwardly looked away. Though Bella can't help but glimpse at him every now and then. Every aspect of him is perfect, he's so beautiful, Bella thought, while Edward behind them was giving the young man a rather suspicious glare. Not because he felt jealousy of any kind, okay maybe a little, but the very presence of their new classmate is giving him an uncanny and chilling sensation. He tried to read him but quickly withdraw in painful regret. Unlike Bella's wall-like mind, which was quiet and doesn't register any thought, or Naruto who could block his more profound thoughts from being read, this guy has some sort of mental barrier Edward has never seen before. His mind is like a hazy labyrinth full of unfathomable and unseen perils that would easily claim and shatter the vampire's sanity if he would delve in too deep. Who is this guy? Edward thought. A definitely curious gift that warrants a more profound investigation for later. The bell rang and first period was over. Dash dot 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 dash dot. School cafeteria. A few periods thereafter, the bell rang yet again and it's lunch. The cafeteria was bustling with activity. Students eating and socializing with their friends, jocks bragging on how awesome their game was last season, girls churning out the latest gossip, and geeks talking about the myriad objects of their fancy. Alex walked in making more than a few heads turn. Pretty much your run-of-the-mill school cafeteria, I suppose, he surmised as he assembled food in his tray. "Hey Alex, over here," yelled Eric, who he met at Spanish class earlier. Jessica and Angela blushed as they saw the fine-looking young man approach their table. "Eric, my good man, what's up?" Alex jovially greeted, fist bumping with Eric. "Yo, By the way, this is Mike, Tyler, Jessica, Angela, and new arrival is my homegirl Isabella, Eric introduced his friends, who Alex nodded at each. Just Bella, the pale young woman corrected as she placed her bag on a chair. So what brings you to Forks? Mike inquired while crunching on an apple. Well, it's kind of complicated. You see, I'm originally from Seattle, then we moved to my father's estate in Cardiff when I was 10. When my parents passed away from a car accident last year, I decided to move somewhere more equable. Alex said with a glimpse of solitude in his face. I'm sorry, man, Mike sadly muttered. Ah, you poor thing, Angela and Jessica almost simultaneously exclaimed. Eric, Tyler, and Bella were silent, though they were very sympathetic to his plight. It's quite all right, though I would suggest we move on to a less somber topic, Alex said, trying to gleam. So, Cardiff. That's in the UK, right? Eric curiously inquired. South coast of Wales, yes, Alex said before shoveling a fork full of coleslaw in his mouth. So that's why, Bella said with a half smile, like she deciphered a great mystery. Why, what? Alex said with a perplexed look on his face and a mouthful of coleslaw. The accent, Bella said with a half smile on her face. Oh, that, Alex chuckled. Well, I tried to be less obtrusive as possible, but I guess people easily pick up on the way I speak. Nah, it's cool, man. Don't worry too much about it, Tyler said, tapping his back. By the way, La Push baby, are you in? Eric then sleekly said, looking at Bella. Should I know what that mean? Bella replied, expressing slight confusion and trace amount of antipathy for what sounded very much like an innuendo. La Push down at the Quileute reservation. We're all going tomorrow, Mike explained. Yeah, and there's a big swell coming in, Jessica further supplied. And I don't just surf the internet. Eric suddenly stood from where he sat and posed a mock surfboarder stance, which prompted Mike to do the same in response before being pulled back by Tyler. Eric, you stood up once, and it was a foam board, Jessica reminded him. But there's whale watching too. Come with us. Alex, you should totally come too, Angela said, trying to convince the two newcomers. Everyone is in agreement with her statement and began to cheer into persuading the two. It's La Push baby, La Push, Eric reiterated, but in a somehow creepier manner. Sounds great, Alex said, a little creeped out from how Eric says La Push, though he didn't let anyone notice it. Okay, I'll go if you stop saying that, Bella said, munching on a cucumber before proceeding to the lunch line counter of the cafeteria. Seriously, dude, it's creepy, Mike said in agreement. What? That's what it's called, Eric replied in an awkwardly fading voice. Admitting defeat but still trying to salvage a few shreds of his dignity. Quote, it's her, isn't it? Alice inquired in a worried tone after seeing Edward painfully trying to control his urge. Edward didn't respond, but his grip on a paper napkin he's holding tightened, then he abruptly threw it on the table. That may not be our only problem, Naruto said while subtly tilting his head to point out Alex. The new kid, Emmett snorted with an unworried smirk. What do you mean? Jasper queried, looking at the other blonde with a slightly confused but curious expression. There's something not quite right about with this guy. He's not a vampire, I'll tell you that, but I suspect he's no ordinary human either, Naruto said in a serious tone, his eyes narrowing on the newcomer. He's kind of cute though, Rosalie involuntarily muttered, which Alice furtively concurred and earned a jealous look from Emmett. I tried to read him earlier, but his mind is like a labyrinth I can't get through. It's painful even to try, Edward hissed as he recalled the agonizing experience. Suddenly Alice looked like as if she's in immense agony. She held her head like it is being split into two. She felt a sharp pain, as if the remnant of what used to be her soul was being distorted and torn by an unseen power. Alice, are you all right? What's happening? Jasper fretfully asked while holding her in his arms. My vision, it's really strange. It's like a hazy forest. I can't see anything but mist. Then suddenly everything became distorted and incomprehensible, like looking at a kaleidoscopic vision of chaos. It was terrible, Alice replied, gasping from the strain of her unpleasant ordeal. Do you think he has something to do with this? Edward queried while the blonde and the rest of the Cullens suspiciously eyed the young man. I don't know, but it seems likely, Naruto replied. A long minute of uncanny silence reigned over them as they all wordlessly concluded that further investigation must be carried out before they confront the mysterious stranger. Meanwhile, Edward caught a gaze of Bella and decided to approach her. Bella was at the lunch line getting herself a salad that she somewhat assembled in an aesthetically pleasing manner. "Edible art," said a voice that startled her into dropping an apple from the counter. But before the fruit could touch the ground, it was kicked up and gracefully caught on the palms of the voice's owner. Bella gazed up, but before she could compliment the skill she saw it was Edward. His eyes weren't brown anymore and he looks paler than before, though, surprisingly he is in a good mood. "Bella," Edward greeted her with a smile. "You know, your mood swings is kind of giving me a whiplash," Bella retorted as she walked around the lunch line. "I only said it would be better if we aren't friends, not that I don't want to be," Edward calmly said in a soothing voice. "What's that even mean?" Bella retorted with an inquiry in a somewhat irate tone. "It means that if you're smart, you'll stay away from me." "Okay, let's say for argument's sake that I'm not smart. Would you tell me the truth?" Bella hopefully asked while looking at his eyes. "No, probably not," Edward gawkily replied as he quickly severed his eye contact. Bella sighed and turned away from him as well. "I'd rather hear your theories," Edward then said. At this point Eric, Alex and Jessica caught a glimpse of Mike staring jealously at Edward, who's talking to Bella. "I considered you have radioactive spiders and kryptonite," said Bella. That made Edward smile in amusement. "It's all superhero stuff, right? What if I'm not the hero? What if I'm the bad guy?" Edward saw Ed in a serious tone, supplementing his sudden mood shift. "You're not. I can see what you're trying to put off. But I can see that it's just to keep people away from you." "It's a mask," Bella said. That made Edward's eyebrows furrowed together in contemplation of what he just heard. "Why don't we just hang out? Everyone's going to the beach, come. I mean have fun," Bella said eloquently. That made Edward smile some more and genuinely considered to join them. "Which beach?" Edward asked. "La Push," Bella replied, which made Edward's smile drop instantly like an icicle blasted by a flamethrower. "Is there something wrong with that beach?" Bella inquired. She was perplexed by Edward's sudden change of disposition. "I don't know. It's just," Edward mumbled, and then he was awkwardly silent for a while and quickly glanced at Bella's friends behind him. "It's just a little crowded," he retorted before walking out without any warning, further confusing the already dumbfounded Bella. "You okay, Bella?" Alex inquired with a sincere gleam. "Yeah, why did you ask?" Bella awkwardly answered as she lifted her tray. "Well, you look kind of pensive," Alex replied ever so politely in the same awkward manner, which for some bizarre reason made Bella felt a little better. "I'm good, thanks for asking," Bella responded with a smile. "Ah, see, you look much more beautiful when you smile," Alex said, beaming as well. That made Bella blush. "Whatever," is the only word she can cumbersomely utter before her face turned completely red. "Are you sure you're okay? You look a little bit flushed. Would you like me to accompany you to the school infirmary?" Alex said, looking her straight in the eyes, completely clueless of what he did but felt genuine concern for his new friend. "I said I am fine," Bella agitatedly mumbled as she stormed back to their table, leaving a dazed Alex who still don't have any idea what just happened. "Okay," Alex awkwardly mumbled. "Maybe she has her period. Yup, that must be it," he thought, scratching his head in confusion. "Looks like pretty boy is pulling a fast one on your girl," Naruto teased Edward. That bridled the vampire and made his eyes snap in barely controlled anger, narrowing its gaze on the young man. "He doesn't look too clever though," Edward sniffed and said as he continuously gave Alex unkind glares. "I would revise that assessment if I were you, old chap," Naruto said in a mock accent akin that of Alex's, making Edward turn and look at the blonde with a blank expression. Naruto chuckled a bit before his tone became more serious. "You see, in my experience, the one who played the fool is usually the most cunning and often the most dangerous," he said as he recalled his past altercations with Obito. "Gym class, Crowley shirts, Storm skins, Newton shirts, Yorkie skins, Cullen shirts, Uzumaki skins." Coach Clapp continuously howled in a deep, sharp voice as he segregated his students for basketball. "Oh yeah, you guys ready to play some ball?" Naruto roared ecstatically. Basketball has been his favorite sport since he and Dr. Naismith invented it one rainy day, back in 1891. More than a century of practice and play made him practically unbeatable. He has been invited on more than one occasion to join the school varsity as people perceived him to have prodigious natural talent for the sport, offers he all but turned down without any explanation, much to the dismay and displeasure of Coach Clapp. Well, at least someone's happy about gym class, Alex thought in amusement seeing the overly passionate blonde. Oh man, I hate this, Eric sulked. Don't worry about it, man. At least we're on the same team, Alex sanguinely said to console him. He then tilted his head to subtly point out Mike, who's clearly not amused being teamed up with Edward, and apparently the feeling is mutual as the vampire can read the maledictions and less than pleasant things he's thinking. I wish I have your optimism, Eric replied. His gloomy mood has somewhat been slightly assuaged as he saw the humorous irked expression on Mike's face. Misery loves company, especially if the other guy is a little bit more miserable than you are. Oh, lighten up, buddy, Alex chuckled as he took off his shirt to prepare for the sport. The air was suddenly silent. And for the second time seemingly grinds to a halt. The myriad of girls in the vicinity blushed red, and for a fleeting moment most of the boys made themselves question their own gender preferences. Their eyes the size of dinner plates and their jaws nearly fell out as they beheld the shirtless Alex. The usual clothes he wore deceptively guised his lean but perfectly sculpted Greek god body. But that irksome piece of cloth is now gone, and his singularly defined upper physique is all but bare for everyone to see. And a euphoria it was, especially for the vacant-eyed, seemingly tranced young women whose bliss-induced flushed faces are as red as the delicately blooming roses in the summer gardens of the Palace of Versailles. Edward felt the gnawing frustrations and despondency in his heart just grew as he caught a glimpse of Bella, who at the moment was so allured and captivated at the aesthetic paragon that is Alex. He may not be able to read her mind, but a single glance on her face is all that is needed to reckon the naughty fantasies in her head. Pretty boy equals 2, Edward equals zilch, Naruto teased. I would do something about that if I were you, he then continued with a playful smile on his face. Edward gave him an austere stare, which in reality is just a front to mask his jealousy. I don't know what you're talking about, he then scoffed and was about to walk out. I think we both know what I'm talking about. Don't go all emo on me when she picked him over you, Naruto said in a sagely but sarcastic tone that made Edward pause and come to his senses. What would you have me do then? Edward sneered in a rage-fueled but hushed, whispering voice as he finally snapped. Okay, first calm down, I'm here to help you. Second, this guy plays in a completely different league. Let's admit the fact that your natural charms is no match for someone that looks like a gay guy designed in a genetics lab. You see, I did some research, and as if things aren't bad enough, I found out that Alex Stud Muffin over there is from some fancy aristocratic family. His real name is Lord Alexander Altyrus de Sanguinus Storm, if you're feeling formal, that is. That's why we should step up your game, ya. No. Naruto explained in the same sagely but this time encouraging tone. Step up my game. What do you mean? Edward inquired with a cloud of bewilderment in his face. Naruto's sagely aura suddenly dropped like a fly. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do, he then said in an uneasy monotonous voice and with a blank face as he realized that this task wouldn't be that easy. In fact, it would be very much the opposite. That stuff you said about being designed by a gay guy in a lab. You just ripped that from a movie, didn't you? Edward Riley inquired with a suppressed smirk on his deadpan face. That's not the point, ya. No. Naruto retorted in a comical aggravated outburst. Meanwhile, Alex as usual is completely oblivious and clueless of the effects he had just said about his business, like nothing is amiss. Great. The last thing I need is some clueless himbo turning these girls into hormone-crazed rabid animals. Ridiculous. I don't get paid enough for this. Not even close. The etched Coach Clapp thought sarcastically in derision and disbelief as he watched his distracted female students. Storm, put your shirt back on, son. You and Newton are switching teams, he said, regaining his senses back and much of his authoritarian disposition. Mike seemed relieved being relinquished from the torment of teaming up with Freaky Cullen, as he puts it. While Alex on the other hand don't seem too keen on taking up Mike's place as he is being eyed quite darkly by Edward. Lighten up, buddy, Eric teased as he saw Alex's staggered expression upon hearing Coach Clapp's announcement. I wish I have your optimism, Alex retorted in a sarcastic tone that sent Eric into a fit of roaring wild laughter. Yorkie, shut up and get your ass in here, yelled Coach Clapp that made everyone snigger. Irony is such a funny thing indeed. Quote, that night Bella had a strange and rather eerie dream. She found herself in a stunning but uncanny realm overlooking the ruins of a once grand and magnificent ancient city that is now plagued by a haunting silence from eons of being forsaken by its equally antediluvian denizens. For reasons she couldn't fully comprehend, she decided to walk towards its direction and approach it. The ruins lie a mile or two to the east of her current location. With narrow but steady strides she manages to get closer and closer, passing a field of strange and alien-like vegetation on the interlude that looked like giant blood-tinged sunflowers that swayed rhythmically at the sound of her footsteps. Bella walked a little bit further and was finally able to gain enough proximity from the ruins for closer inspection. She was horrified, however, as she found out that the said ruins is a great and surreal necropolis of some sort. Its outer walls seemed to be constructed from quadrilateral crystal sarcophagi stacked upon each other like bricks. The corpses entombed within were transparently visible and wore the garbs of a forgotten civilization from time immemorial. They remained uncorrupted, projecting an illusion of life as they seemed to be only in a state of deep slumber, eternally dreaming. She mustered enough courage to walk past through the macabre wall and saw the mottled remnants of a once proud watchtower wrought of ghost-white marble that appeared to have served as a defensive edifice in the past, along with myriad of curious obsidian monoliths etched with incomprehensible runes from a language long forgotten. Bella walked further and saw an eerie glow emanating from the portal of the inner citadel. Her curiosity impelled her feet to stride into the citadel's direction. As she entered its threshold, she beheld a grand and majestic tree the size of a luxury cruiser and as tall as a modern skyscraper. Within the heart of the tree's decussating spire-like inner branches lies what seemed to be a miniature blue sun wreathed with black coronal flares and was scintillating rays of dazzling effulgence. The intense and strange brilliance momentarily bereft Bella of her senses and enthralled her into a trance-like state. Bizarre and dark visions flashed before her eyes as the prodigious phantom rays of the elfin star touched her skin. She saw a great and terrible war between grotesque creatures under the command of a colossal cyclopean monster and humans with strange powers being led by Naruto and a rather unfamiliar raven-haired boy, like generals. The battle was horrific and bloody, but Naruto and his forces managed to secure a victory. Though, triumph was as bitter as defeat, for all the belligerents perished in its conclusion, save for the grief-stricken golden-haired warrior. Another vision materialized before Bella like vapor fogging a mirror. She saw Edward being stabbed with a shimmering ethereal lance by what appeared to be an angel, causing the former to crack and shatter into incalculable fragments like powdery broken glass. She then woke up, gasping from a dream she couldn't remember, nor could she recall the phantasmagorical and cryptic visions vouchsafed by the great tree and its clairvoyant star. Bella looked over her shoulder, unintentionally gazing upon her window, and saw a breathtaking sight. The night sky was strangely unhindered by the nigh ubiquitous clouds, and the landscape was bathed with the gentle iridescent shimmer from the stars and the peering moon, who revealed their light with uncanny luster, along with a great meteor shower that smote the skies with innumerable traces of glittering fiery trails. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.